Welcome to Season 4 of She Lancer, Mom Entrepreneur with VoiceOver Angela. I'm your host, Angela. I'm a full-time voiceover artist and audiobook narrator, and this podcast are the audio versions of my live Q&A chats on YouTube. If you'd like to be part of the live Q&A chats, come on over to my YouTube channel, VoiceOver Angela. I'm live every Tuesday at 12 p.m. EST. We talk about voiceover, the business of voiceover, audiobooks, and so much more. Find more information on my website, voiceoverangela.com. Enjoy today's episode. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are. Thank you for joining me again for another live Q&A session here on my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Angela. I am a full-time voiceover artist and audiobook narrator, and my channel is dedicated to those of you just getting started out in this wonderful world of voiceover and audiobook narration. And through my channel, I share with you some tips and tricks and techniques and things that I do every day in my own voiceover business. And then we get together in these weekly sessions to talk about a topic or five. Mainly try to stay on topic, but you know how live chats go. If you're not new here, then you know that every week we have a new poll, and it's basically the main intended topic for today. And the poll is, how long does it take you to produce a 1-hour book, which is roughly about 9,300 words? And if the option is not available to you, the option that you would like to select is not available to you in the poll, then please leave it in the comments. But I think I might have covered it. So the options are 2 to 3 hours, 4 to 5 hours, 6 to 10 hours, or you haven't yet produced an audiobook. It looks like 24 votes, 17% of you said 2 to 3 hours. 29% of you said 4 to 5 hours. 6 to 10 hours, 16% of you said 6 to 10 hours. And then 42% of you at this point said, I haven't produced an audiobook yet. So good. Almost half of you haven't started with audiobooks yet. So I'm hoping this conversation will help. Of course, this is a question that I get a lot because audiobooks are, for me anyway, I had no idea how much work was involved in producing an audiobook in the beginning. I just was like, I'm a book nerd. Someone's going to pay me to read these books, and that'll be awesome. And then you start the research phase, and then you discover that there's a whole lot more to it than you originally thought. And it is true. So for a 1-hour book, roughly about 9,300 words, what you should do, no matter the book, and I know there are going to be some books that you could probably read through, mainly maybe self-help, some sort of a self-help kind of a book that you probably don't need to read through beforehand, although I always recommend doing that. Because if it is, say, like something very, something to do with medical, right? If it's a medical narration of some really any kind, even outside of audiobooks, definitely those you want to read through first, because there might be some words you might need some help with pronunciation. And if you do look for help with pronunciation, just side note, I don't recommend using Google to help you with pronunciation. Google is great for many things, but pronunciation is not one I would use it for. I always refer to merriam-webster.com. There you can find the definition so you know what you're talking about. And then you also get a phonetic and a audio recording of the correct pronunciation, which does help quite a bit. And when in doubt, ask the client. Always ask the client when in doubt for pronunciation tips. Anywho, but definitely reading through the book beforehand. I mean, fiction is kind of a no-brainer. You want to make sure that you can, if there are characters or especially And I've had this happen before. When you get to the close to the middle or the end of the book, you discover that your character has an accent of some sort, and you've read through most of the book without one. Then you're having to re-record that book, or discover that you can't do that accent very well, right? So reading through the book beforehand is always going to be better. It's going to make the production so much better. So you're better informed as to which direction you're going in, what your characters are going to sound like, any pronunciation of, even with fiction, you might have like made up names of places and people, and you might need to know how to pronounce those. Knowing the plot, character background, there's a lot to it that reading through the book is really going to help you with direction. So at the very least, give yourself a few hours to read through that book before you even start. Um, and I always recommend, even before taking on the book project, um, looking at the manuscript yourself before even agreeing or negotiating pricing, taking a look at the manuscript yourself, just to spot check it, just to peruse it, skim through it quickly, because you want to make sure that that you verify the word count. I've had many times where a client, whether well-meaning or otherwise, has omitted a zero in the word count. And of course, that's going to change your pricing sometimes dramatically. So you want to verify the word count. And then you also want to make sure that you're comfortable with the content, because everybody's definition of romance, for example, is different. There could be content in there that in this romance book that you're not comfortable with. And if that is a hard stop for you, then you definitely want to know that before you agree to contract terms. Okay, so if you're producing an audiobook, you want to read through it first. And then also you have the read through, which is going to take some time. Usually, the rule of thumb for an audiobook production is that it's going to take twice as long to record as it is long. So if it's a 1 hour book, it's going to take you 2 hours to record it, because there will be breaks, water breaks, of course, getting up and stretching. There's going to be retakes. There's going to be pauses where you might be looking up a word. Maybe there's a word or two, especially in medical narration, that's going to take you several takes to get right, sometimes maybe even more. And then for editing that 2 hours of narration, it's going to take you another maybe 3 to 5 hours, depending on your skill level, to then go through and edit and master that audio, right? So, in essence, a 1 hour book could take you, especially in the beginning when you're still learning everything and how everything works and what should be applied, and what, especially the formatting process, right? The formatting, getting it to audiobook standards is difficult. So that 1 hour book, in essence, could take you 10 to 15 hours sometimes in the very beginning to get that done. So um, ideally, at some point, once you get comfortable enough with your processes and your effects and getting your prep time down, right? Reading through the book and making notes and all of those things, you should get your ratio of work to finished to down to like a 1 to 2 ratio, right? Meaning a 1 hour book will take you 2 hours to do, or even a 1 to 3 ratio, because you have that read through time beforehand. So even if right now you're at a maybe 1 to 10 ratio, that's nothing to be ashamed of. We've all been there. We've all started in that same place, not knowing anything about the DAW or your digital audio workstation, which is your recording software, how that works, how to effectively edit, what all the buttons do there, how all the effects work and work together in harmony, which sometimes takes time to figure out too. So in the beginning, my point is that it's going to take a lot of time, especially in the beginning, to produce an hour of audiobook. But don't let that dissuade you, because again, as you go along, and I'm sure there's a lot of people in the comments here that will say the same, You will go as you go along, you will discover ways to streamline your process. You will better understand how all the effects work and work in harmony with each other. You will learn proper mic technique, proper mic placement. Um, you will have better breath control the more and more you practice and the more you're reading out loud. All of these things will get better over time. So don't lose hope and don't despair. It does get better. It will get faster. I promise you. You just have to keep at it. So that's basically the long and short of it. I'm sure there'll be some comments that will dive a little bit further into this. But let's get over to the comments. Let's see. Let's see who's here. Who's first in today? Scrolling. Caesar. Hey, Caesar. How you doing, buddy? Caesar says, funny thing. I was going to say 2 to 3 hours since I've gotten pretty good at using batch processing tools such as declickers and de-essers, but I still haven't gotten over the micromanagement. Yeah. That's definitely a factor too. And I think there's still a lot of overthinking that we do. Even in my case, 6 years in, there's still a lot of overthinking, but I'm getting better at making a decision and moving on because I have to, because time is money. It just is. So you have to get to a point where you trust yourself enough that you feel that you're educated enough, comfortable enough with things to move on to the next. I definitely understand that, Caesar. Caesar then says, I hate that I still fuss over the little details, most of which are usually inaudible, but are visible during spectral editing. Yeah, spectral editing, for those of you that have, I know Adobe Audition has it. I know Audacity has it. I don't know if Reaper, I think Reaper does too, but I'm not sure. Most DAWs, let me just say, have what you'll see first usually is the waveform editing, and then they'll have a spectral editing option. And in that spectral editing, you can see breaths, you can see mouth noise, you can see all the things, good and bad, above and beyond what you can see in the waveform. So once you see them, you can't unsee them. So spectral editing is good because you can see these things and you can remove them if you need to. But it's also bad because you can see them and it's kind of hard to get past seeing them, right? But this is where good effects come into play. In my case, mouth noise, always been an issue for me. But I have the Isotope Advanced suite of plugins for RX10, and that has the mouth declick effect in it that has reduced my editing time by like 80%. It's worth its weight in gold, let me tell you. But the spectral editing has definitely made it harder to kind of move past things, right? So as soon as I'm over that, I'm quite certain I can make better time, of course. That said, hello, Angela. Hello, everyone. I don't have any anecdotes to share. Not yet, anyway. Wait, no, I found a Sennheiser 416 rival that's even better than the Synco D2. I don't own it yet. Details to come. Well, you can't just drop that bomb and not tell us what it is. At least tell us what it is so anyone interested can go check it out. Dwight, and for those of you that don't know what a Sennheiser 416 is, it's this shotgun microphone here that I'm using. Dwight says, I'm with Caesar regarding processing timing. I've improved so much, but I am still into the micromanaging thing a little bit. But I'm getting better every day. Good. And that's progress. And remember, progress is still progress, no matter how small the step forward is. Right? I had somebody tell me once that I feel like I'm taking 3 steps forward and then 2 steps back. And they were upset about that, getting down on themselves for that. And I said, that's still a step forward. That might be 3 forward and 2 back, but that's still 1 step forward. That's still forward. And you have to give yourself credit for that. You do, because we're so programmed to look at everything negatively, in a negative way. And I don't want to get into whole like mentality thing, but it really is. We look at everything very negatively when we really shouldn't. You need to learn to look at everything in a positive lens. And that would definitely help a lot of things, a lot of mindsets, and getting ourselves moving forward, I think. Sorry, I'm trying to I'm trying to suppress the tangent. Hi, Angela, and all my Angelista associates and compadres. Yes. Morning, Dwight. Paul Landergan, voiceover artist, says, "Hi, all. Afraid I can't stay long as usual, but thought I'd chip in early. I ticked 4 to 5 hours. That breaks down roughly as follows: 1.5 hours to record, a few minutes or less to process, denoise, declick, expand, compress, normalize. I'm comfortable with my effect stack. 2.5 hours to check the joins. I punch and roll, but still occasionally get on. Last time you asked chat 119, I think. I said 5 to 6 hours. Good. So you're getting faster. So if the last time we went over this, you were 5 to 6 hours and now you're 4 to 5, that's still pretty good. Good job. Oh, I see. But I occasionally get an audible artifact and punch in. Yes, and do any other editing required. Oh, and do the retakes because I almost always find something I misread. Yes, the proofing and the editing part is where you're going through everything that you've recorded and you're checking it against proofing is you're checking it against the script. So you want to make sure that the words that are written are the words that you're saying, because sometimes our brains will get creative with things and switch words around, or you'll say them instead of then, or something of that nature, and you need to get in there, or of instead of for. It happens. So you need to get in there and, paste in the correct wording. So the editing process, I think for me it takes the longest amount of time for sure, but it's good to do that. So you make sure that it's correct. That is speeding up though. Last time you asked chat, oh yeah, that was, I think it's a duplicate, 5 to 6 hours. It's good. Dylan says, Paul, that is pretty much my exact process also. I do, however, use positron after my first recording before mastering, so I can do pickups before the true editing and mastering begin. And for those of you that don't know, positron is a software that you can load in your script and you can load in your audio files and it'll do the proofing for you. It is not a free service. As far as I know. I think last time we talked about, I know we've talked about it a couple times. I think it's like $10 a month or something, but there's a limited amount of audio that you can process with it. But go check it out. Positron, I believe it's .com, positron.com. And it is a helpful tool for audiobook narrators or voice artists that do a lot of long form, even to proof your audio against the script to make sure that what you're saying is actually what is written. Definitely a helpful tool. Paul says to Dylan, what I really need to work on is getting down the editing phase. Retakes aren't a problem because my processing is all presets. So I can process just the retake in place. Of course, what you're reading can make a big difference to the recording time. I've done a few theological books, and Hebrew, Arabic, and Aramaic words seem to me a lot harder to say than English. I would agree. I would agree. If it's not something that comes naturally to you, I would imagine that it would be difficult, that it might take a few takes to get right. I don't think you're alone in that, Paul. Dylan says it's very true. I've done a couple of medical books, and you have to add a little bit of extra time for pronunciation lookup and additional retakes. Yeah, for sure. I do a lot of medical narration, a lot of like journals and like product launches and things of that nature. So medical, some of those words are quite difficult for sure. I have a Merriam-Webster on a bookmark. Caesar says absolutely, such as pseudo hypoparathyroidism. I don't even know if that's a real word. I know parathyroidism is. I know pseudo are. Just making stuff up. Pseudo is a double negative, isn't it? Dylan says, does the double pseudo make it actually? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Caesar says, I mean, the math checks out. A negative cancels another negative. Therefore, it is a positive. So if I install Windows 11 twice, I should get Windows 22. Dylan says, I think you would have to uninstall Windows 11 twice and then install Windows 33 in order to get Windows 22. But I'm not a tech guy, so I could be wrong. You guys are all so funny. Pamela says, good morning to all. Good morning to you, Pamela. Joe is here. Hey, Joe. Joe Pace. Hello, all. Just getting over COVID. That really stinks. It is still out there quite a bit, isn't it? Still hear a lot of people coming down with the COVID. It keeps lingering. I guess it will. I guess it's just something we have to deal with now. Gregory says, good morning. Good morning, Gregory. I'm in the midst of recording my first audiobook. I'll let you know, but I think I made my best guess. That's awesome. I'm happy for you. I know that I think it was in our last, was it just in our last platinum meeting that you were saying that you were auditioning a lot but not seeing any return? So now that you have an audiobook, I'm happy for you. I hope that you're happy. Sounds like you are, but I'd like to know more. Tell me more. Tell me more about this book. Laura says, hello, everyone. Great to be here. Great to have you here, Laura. Thank you for being here. Greenwood Audio Creation says to Joe, glad to hear it. Welcome to the party. Rustic Hillbilly says, good morning, all. Good morning to you, Rustic Hillbilly. Laura says, thanks to Joe. Eric, I've had Eric on here as a guest once or twice. How many times was it, Eric? Twice? Once? Twice? Good morning. Not late today, however, going to bounce, going to get a haircut. Just wanted to say Mernon. Well, can't wait to see the haircut on Thursday. Thank you for stopping by and saying Mernon. John Freetag is here. Good morning, Angela. Good morning to you, John. Is summer over yet, Nazy? Still in Washington State and it's 61 degrees here. No, it is not over today. Not over yet. Our summer doesn't really end until like late October. No, it's still in the triple digits. I think it's supposed to be 109 today. I think I heard this morning. Yeah. Nope, not over yet. 61 degrees sounds lovely. Donnie's here. Hey, Donnie. Hello, Angelinians. Welcome to the place of mom looks and tangents. FYI, the tangents are actually informative and we need them. Okay. I know. I always say that too. I just feel so bad. I feel like I'm just like verbal diarrhea. Like I just blah, blah. But if it's helpful, then I have to just let the tangents flow. It's hard though, because I feel like I'm just babbling. Joe Colazzo is here. Hello. Good morning, Joe. Dylan says, we also need the mom looks most days. Why do you guys want the mom looks? Why? Eric says, smash that like button. Yes, please do. Please, maybe not smash it, but, gently tick it with your mouse. That helps the algorithm. It helps the YouTube gods to shine their light upon me. And not smashing does no damage to your mouse or monitor. Joe. Hello. Mary's here. Mary says, I feel like timing really depends on who is doing the engineering. Yes, if you have somebody else doing the post-production part, meaning the editing, mastering, formatting, which you can do if you're a brand new narrator and you're still learning all these things and you have the ability financially to pay somebody to do the back end for you, the post, the editing, mastering, and formatting for you in the beginning, you can, but I highly recommend learning to do it yourself because let's just say, especially in the beginning when you're just getting started and you're learning how to do all these things, you're probably not going to be charging industry standard rates yet. And the industry standard rate for audiobook production is $250 per finished hour. And a finished hour is 9,300 words, and all the time that it takes to get that one finished hour. Like we talked about earlier, that one finished hour, especially in the beginning, could take up to, 10 hours or so for each one finished hour. So if you're just starting out and you're at $50 per finished hour or $100 per finished hour, then you know that $100 is going to cover all of that time. Now, if you are just doing the narrating and then you're paying somebody to finish the files for you, edit, proof, master, format, most of those services are, depending on their skill level and how new they are, perhaps, could cost you anywhere between $50 to $300 per finished hour. So that is something that you're going to be on the hook for. That's up to you to pay for that service out of the income that you're making on that audiobook job. You can absolutely do that. But if you learn to do it yourself, then you can keep all of that income in-house, right? Especially if you're looking at doing a royalty share, because there's nothing paid to you up front. The money that you make is solely based on sales. So anything that you pay an engineer is really, are you going to make that back or not? We don't really know. So learning to do these things yourself is definitely going to help for sure. But you're right. If you have somebody experienced doing the post for you, it's probably going to take less time, but it will cost you money to do it for sure. Jim says, having just finished a 21-page portion of a book on linguistics, I can speak to this process from experience. My mic was delivering a muffled sound, so I used some EQ that blew the volume into red. If your mic is delivering a muffled sound, I would take a look at your mic placement, also your cables, maybe the mic itself. I'm not sure if EQ, if it's muffled right out the gate, then there's something I would look at. I wouldn't put any effects on it. I would try to figure out why it's sounding muffled, because it shouldn't. Maybe and I've had this happen many times where someone was just speaking into the wrong side of the microphone. So something to keep in mind. It's happened a lot, and it's a common thing. Dylan says, always read the manuscript first. You would hate to put in 3 hours of recording and then get to chapter titled How to Kick Puppies. You always want to know the complete subject matter. Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. I am Paximus. Hey, buddy. How are you? Hey, Angela. Good morning. How you doing today? I am fabulous. Thank you for asking. I'm doing a lot of practice currently with read alouds, recording them, and have finished a few books. My issue currently is working on character voices. And I find that this is a question that I get a lot too, is about character voices. Now, there's going to be different applications or needs for character voices. So when people say character voices, I think immediately, especially in the beginning, before we start to learn all the different nuances and subtleties of characters. And I'm not saying you're saying this, Paximus, I'm just general statement because you brought up a good point. When we think character voices, we think, like cartoon, like extreme character voices. And those are voices that are also needed for animation, for character work, for when you're just becoming like a completely different character. Think like sci-fi book or something like that. Most of the time with audiobooks, it's going to be very subtle. And this is where reading through the differences in character voices is very subtle. Um, this is where reading through the book beforehand is really going to help you. We just went over this a couple weeks ago in our Platinum group about developing different character voices. And when you're going through the book, you can have a spreadsheet, a Google, slide, not a slide, a Google. I did this last time, Google Sheets, something to help you keep track of the character name, their background, any kind of physical attributes, if they are, how old they are, where they come from, what's their motivation, how do they sound, if they have an accent, things like that. And that'll help you to sort of build a character profile. And then once you develop a character voice for that person, then you can record a snippet of it and add a link to that into your spreadsheet, or keep a master file of all the different voices for that audiobook. And then if, of course, as always, if there is a character voice that you're not quite sure, or perhaps let's just say you're not quite sure, you could always reach out to the rights holder and send them what you're thinking for these different characters, and see if the rights holder or the author has any input for you. Because I can tell you that the author, as they're writing this, they have a voice in their mind. They have a character speaking in their mind. They have an idea. It's already in their head. So the author is a great person to go to for feedback on the voices that you've created, and they can help further develop these characters. I always recommend, for those of you just starting out in audiobook narration, to listen to audiobooks yourself. That is definitely great for professional, not only personal enjoyment, but for professional development. Hearing other narrators and how they handle emotion, how they handle the voices, how they handle pauses, right? The inflection, how they bring the story to life is definitely going to help you further your own career as an audiobook narrator. And when it comes to characters, and especially when I think people are really thinking cartoon character voices for audiobooks, when we think of character voices, I always recommend people listen to Jurassic Park, narrated by Scott Brick. Scott Brick, I love Scott Brick. He's one of my favorite narrators. But his take on character voices is very, very subtle. Very subtle, small little shifts and nuances in the different voices. And you can still follow along just fine. So that is one that I always recommend people listen to when they want to get into audiobooks, is Scott Brick narrating Jurassic Park. It's very good. And it's dinosaurs. Dinosaurs. Anyway, there you go. I didn't halt the tangent on that one. So there you go. Tangent done. Jim says, read the page several times before recording. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Read it out loud, a few times, and then, or just hit record if you have like that anxiety about recording. Just hit the record button and then start reading it out loud. And that way you kind of set aside the trepidation of the recording going, and then just do it. And by the time you're warmed up enough, it should come out good. All right, here we go, voice. Stop it. Jim says, used single band compression to contain the volume range caused by the EQ. Yes, sir. But still, if you have a muffled sound straight out the gate, I would be trying to figure out why that's happening first. Colette, the donuts are in the kitchen. You didn't bring them? Come on, Colette. Mama wants a donut. Don't forget to like this. Yes, please. Hit that like button, or gently tick it with your mouse. Thank you, Colette. Jim said, all that said, I am done with books for the time being. Good for you. Taking breaks is also a very good thing. Don't overestimate the importance of taking a break, especially with audiobooks. And that also comes into play. I'm glad you brought that up. That also comes into play with like time to complete or time to deliver. I would say overestimate the time you need to complete an audiobook. I would say for me, anything about 30,000 words to 100,000 words, I would ask for at least 30 days. I would even venture to say 30,000 words to 80,000 words, 30 days. Anything above and beyond that should be 45 to 60 days. Because you want to allow yourself extra time to recuperate, to rest your tool, especially if there are a lot of difficult or, character voices that you're using. So let's just say, for example, if it's a sci-fi book and you have a character that's got this really extreme voice that you and the rights holder had agreed upon for this character, and it's really damaging to your vocal cords, you definitely want to take some time to rest after something like that. And it's good to take breaks anyway, especially with audiobooks. Every 2 to 3 hours max, get up, walk around, take some water, make some tea. That throat coat tea is good to have. I would say narrating audiobooks, having warm tea in like one of those, tea warmer things, like that little warmer plate that keeps your mug warm. Having warm tea with you when you're narrating audiobooks is a good thing. Definitely breaks. So you want to allow yourself extra time. And if it turns out at the end you don't need it, let's just say you asked for 30 days and you're done with the book in 20 days, deliver it early and be a hero, right? But you have a buffer. You have a few days of a buffer to give yourself extra time to recuperate. Or let's just say perhaps you got COVID, you got a cold, or one of the kids gets sick. You have that extra time. Oh, we have a super chat. Hold on. I'm sorry. I was too busy tangenting. Mark Samuels, thank you. Oh, thank you for all your mom looks. There's one for you. Thank you so much. I appreciate your super chat. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much, Mark. Now I have to find where I left off. Oh my goodness. Where was I? I think I'm here. Tess Stalker says, glad to be here today. I'm glad you're here too. I've produced 2 books and I'm still pretty slow. It's okay. You will get faster. I promise you. I promise you, you will get faster. Ben is here. Hey, Ben. For myself, the part that consumes the most time is editing the narration to fix pacing, especially when there are characters having dialogue. Getting emotion space correct for this is important to me, as it should be. As it should be. I would say follow your gut, right? In between every paragraph, in between every sentence, doesn't have to be equally spaced. It can be more or less time. As you're acting through the dialogue, if it feels like you need an extra pause there for dramatic effect, then do it and leave it in there because it's just going to improve the sound of that audiobook. Brian is here. Hey, Brian. Good morning, all. I think pre-work takes a lot longer than I think it should. Excuse me. With highlighting dialogue and creating characters, that's another thing you could do when you're doing the prep work at the beginning, which is what Brian's talking about when you're reading through the book the first time and you're building character profiles. Also, choosing a highlight for each character and then highlighting the dialogue in that character's voice will help you to, as you can, in your peripheral, you could see that next character coming up. So you're prepared for that voice, or so you don't read or use the wrong character voice in the narration. I'm working on trying to create archetypes that make creating archetypes for your characters. Like you should have a stable of maybe 6 to 8 solid archetypes for characters. Like for example, and using actors, like I always bring up Christopher Walken because we all know how he speaks with sort of like a pattern, right? So if there's a character in the book that reminds you of another character, like Spock or, Daemon Targaryen, if it's, whoever it is, if it's somebody reminds you of somebody, that could be an archetype, right? Someone who speaks a little bit gruffly, like for me, I have the lumberjack, I have the Barbie, I have, so on and so forth. And then that immediately your brain goes, okay, I know exactly what that person sounds like. And then you can build off of those. That's what the archetypes are. Masonry Construction says, despite the claims of stupid people who should know better, VO work is not get rich quick. It's not. I haven't done audiobooks yet, but just a minute or two of, what is that? Audio video can take me an hour or two. Yeah. And sometimes, every project's going to be a little bit different for sure. There's not like a set dedicated time for really anything that you do. It's every project's going to be a little bit different, a little bit faster, a little bit slower. So, but generally speaking, as you go along, it does get faster. Donnie says, I am at the stage where I'm removing the perfect and replacing it with the best I can do. And that is not easy. Yes, Reaper has the spectrum. Yeah. Okay. And I also, how I feel about the word perfect. There's no such thing as perfect, in my opinion. We're all striving for something that doesn't exist because everybody has a different definition of perfect. And even your definition of perfect may not even exist. It might not be reality. So I don't like the word perfect. Let's strive for satisfied, satisfactory, comfortable. Right? Greenwood Audio Creation says doubt is the mind killer. 1% progress every day is progress. Absolutely. And it's all compounding. Absolutely. Well said. Jim said, would love to find a mic that doesn't muffle my speech like the MXL 990 does. Greenwood Audio Creation says, suppress the tangent, embrace the sine and cosine. Yeah. Greenwood Audio Creation says to Jim, what's your audio interface? Jim says, recording with the Zoom H5, editing with Audition. Greenwood Audio Creation says, my issue was having my gain set too high and mic placement. Play with it. You'll get it. Jim says, how is Lebanization and agglutinating for tough words to pronounce? Those are up there. Greenwood Audio Creation says, Booth Junkie has an MXL 990 video. There you go. Booth Junkie is a great YouTube channel to go and check out, especially if you're looking at tech, if you're looking at microphones, interfaces, anything tech hardware. Check out Booth Junkie. He's probably got a video on it with tips and placement and how it sounds. Great channel. Yeah, here on YouTube. Absolutely. Masonry Construction says, loving the math lessons you all throw in as a bonus. Jim says, oh, yes, good morning from sunny, very hot Memphis. Oh, boy. Yeah, I bet you. Is it humid there, too? I bet. All the storms that rolled through recently. Mark says, hi, Angela and all. I'm too analytical for my own good. Researching just the DB level took time. Yeah. And this is where, for you, Mark, I think being part of a community is definitely going to help. Bringing these conversations or these questions to your group is definitely going to help. Nick could just tell you, what it should be so you don't have to spend so much time researching or have somebody do a Zoom call with you and help you, get the best settings and levels for you. Dylan says, Caesar and I are true Renaissance men. Yes, you are. Greenwood Audio Creation says, finance person. Windows 11 install twice as Windows 121. Embrace the sine and cosine. Eric is here. Hey, Eric. Good to see you. Greetings. Donnie says, think I am going to get a mohawk, but don't worry, Caesar, I'm keeping the beard. That would be awesome. And then you need to dye the mohawk like purple or red. You could be like Hawk in Cobra Kai. Caesar says to Dylan, Mom says it's my turn with the maple leaf. My string construction says, why do you guys want the mom look? She says, with just that look on her face. I know. Joe Colazzo says, yeah, you're going to want to capitalize on most of your profits. I definitely learned to do it yourself. Yes, you want to be as self-sufficient as possible. So learn all that you can. If anybody helps you with anything, learn how and why they did it. So that way you can fix problems that may arise in the future. If you know what your DAW does, what the effects do, how to change, especially if you have somebody set up your booth, meaning your mic placement, your effects, everything is set to what your room currently sounds like. And then maybe you have to get a new microphone, or maybe you get the bug and you want a new microphone. That new microphone is going to necessitate a change in your settings. Small, possibly, but still it would need to be adjusted, your effects rack and everything. So learning how to do those tweaks and changes yourself is definitely going to save you on profits and time, and also help build your confidence and knowing that you got it. You can handle it on your own. So learn all that you can, the how and the why. Dylan says, we don't want the mom look. Typically, we deserve the mom look. Somebody's got to keep us in line. You're not wrong. Gregory says the book delves into many Hispanic cultures and issues. So yes, pronunciations are the thing. Plus, there are a lot of old men throughout the story, so my Yoda voice needs to not sound like my Grand Moff Tarkin voice, and all with a Latino accent. A challenge, but I love it. That's great. I'm pleased that you're digging the challenge. And it does sound like it's a challenge, but you know what? You will be awesome. You will be awesome. Caesar says the having the mic backwards thing is more common than you think. It is. It is more common than you think. I have a Sennheiser MK4 and thought the back was the front. The Rode NT1 is also often installed backwards by mistake. Mm-hmm. Because the microphones that are like front facing, and I find that a lot of microphones now don't come with like a user manual. It's all online. You have to go download it or go to a site to review it or whatever. So the most simplest of things aren't plain to you when you buy a new microphone. They don't tell you that gold dot is the front. Like they could have their logo on the back, and then you assume, okay, logo's there, so that must be the front, but they don't tell you the simplest of things when you buy microphones. I know. Gregory, oh, we just saw that one. Hold on. Lamar is here. Hey, Lamar. Haven't seen you in a while. It takes me 11 bajillion hours. Oh, you'll get faster. Joy is here. Hey, Joy. Hello, Angela and company from stormy weather, Southfield, Michigan. So if I got it straight, the reasonable rate I should charge for a 9,300 word book if I'm doing all the work on it then. What? The reasonable rate? It's ultimately up to you what to charge per finished hour. I started at 50 because I felt not super confident about what I was doing yet. And it felt wrong to charge someone more for me still kind of on the learning path. But as I got past a few books and then a few more books, I started to slowly increase my rates. But you can start wherever you like. Wherever you like. 50 per finished hour, 100 per finished hour, 150 per finished hour, 125, 75, whatever you want to, whatever you're comfortable with in the beginning. Just, it has to make sense to you. It has to make sense to you what you charge. Masonry Construction says, Paximus mentioned character voices. Question. Since there is now some AI type software to produce character voices or different accents, would that be allowed on a very minor character in the book? I have used my own effects rack in my DAW to pitch shift and give like sci-fi characters really interesting voices. I have done that before. That is allowed. And I know some of these audiobook platforms are now allowing AI stuff. So I don't know technically what is or what isn't. But if it's something in your DAW manipulating the character voice, you can do that. That is allowed. I have done that myself, if that's what you mean. I think ultimately, if it's still you as the base voice and the author is okay with the voice that you've chosen, using whatever software you're using, I would think that's okay because it's ultimately up to the author and what they want, right? Hot Pink Bear says, I've been watching a couple people narrate on TikTok, so I watch their process. I learn best that way. And that's a very good point. There's a lot of narrators on TikTok who narrate live. There are quite a few of them. It's really interesting to watch the process. Donnie says, I am working on a book that has outer space aliens and sent a sample to the author, and thankfully he loved it. He was descriptive on the aliens, on how the aliens look, so I pictured the bone structure, etc. Yes, you should. And if you can find like a picture of something similar online, like Google Images or stock art, then you can even use that as reference. So you can just visually go, oh, yeah, that guy. I know exactly what his voice sounds like. Anything that you need to use to help you remember the characters and help build their voices. Oops, clicking away. Greenwood Audio Creation says to me, if it's your genre of interest, you should read The Passage, narrated by Scott. It's so good. Writing it down. The Passage by Scott Brick. I'm going to check it out. Thank you. Gregory says, yes, listen to audiobooks. It's amazing how something in the brain takes place to get to the next level. Talking to yourself doesn't seem so strange. Yeah. Dylan says, despite his name, Scott Brick, just feathers in subtle changes for his characters. I, however, am as subtle as a brick to the ear with my character differences. Different styles both work. Yes, absolutely. Because ultimately, it's up to the author and their narrator choice. And if you are their narrator choice, then whatever style that you're going to do is going to be right if the author chose you to be their characters. Now, every author, depending on the genre, of course, and what they were thinking when they wrote the book, then they're going to have an idea of how like extreme the characters' voices are going to be, right? So obviously, if they hired Scott Brick, they're going to want subtle character differences. If they hired Dylan, they're going to want something a little bit more distinct for each character voices, right? They both work. Brian says, I'm listening to Jurassic Park right now. He also talks about producers figuring out if a narrator does character voices like anime style or more subtle like his style. Children's and young adult are more tuned, for sure. It's definitely going to depend on the genre and what the author wants, right? Greenwood Audio Creation says to Dylan, Dylan Subtle Holt. Lamar says, I always get anxious coming up with the voices. Yeah, same. But if you have a nice spreadsheet or like a compilation of factors and it helps you sort of build the character. And of course, always, if you're in doubt, reach out to the rights holder for feedback or input. Caesar says, Dylan's right. Some go subtle, others wildly vary their performances. Andy Serkis voiced 132 unique characters when he narrated the Lord of the Rings series through a beautiful SE Electronics T2. Yeah, that guy is amazing with his voices. Donnie says, yes, take breaks. Don't wreck your voice halfway through the book. Dylan says, LOL, yes, subtle is indeed my middle name. Pseudo subtle. I am Paxima says, thanks for the helpful info, Angela, about character voices. I'm in the middle of recording Holes by Louis Sachar, and I'm trying to do actual changes, accents for characters, and I wonder if I need. Gregory says to Tess, good for you. Slow is still moving. You'll hit that stride in a minute. Okay, here's continuation of Paxmus. If I need to pivot to simply adding inflection and energy rather than changing up the actual voice. Yeah. I mean, a character change could be something so subtle as how fast they talk, the pattern in which they talk. Again, think Christopher Walken, how he always has this pattern of talking, right? You could break up the pattern. Maybe it's just attitude, right? You know, it could be very subtle differences. Christine says, "Oh, the donuts. Your tangents are enjoyable and insightful." Well, thank you for that. I'm trying to get through all the rest of these comments because I have to get going here soon. But Joy says, "Hello, Angela and company. I think we've already said this. Oh, is 250 the average rate? 250 per finished hour is the industry standard. So that is your goal, basically. But you can start wherever you want to. So once you get to be an experienced narrator and you feel like you've got some books under your belt and you feel like you've got your narration and editing, the ratio, all of that is down to like a 1 to 3. I would say you're ready for industry standard, but you can charge whatever you want to in the beginning. um, if the VO is doing everything from narrating to creating the MP3, not MP4. MP4 is a video. Yes, that is the industry standard. Colette says to Caesar, "What is this through a beautiful SE Electronics T2? Of course, it's a microphone. Of course, he's probably got one." Brian says, "Let's hear the lumberjack talking to Barbie." No, not right now. Don't put me on the spot. My introvert's screaming right now. Colette says, "Perfect. Good enough for now." Yeah, although I don't like the word. I don't like the word in general. Caesar says to Colette, "It's an amazing microphone. In lieu of gold, it uses a titanium sputtered capsule. Very detailed, very flattering for deep male voices. It's also multi-pattern, so very versatile." You knew Caesar would know. Jim says, "This is what I came here for. Thanks. Good. Good." Greenwood Audio Creation says, if any of you have ever audiobooks, the Stormlight archive books, the character Zahil, I swear the voice actor is doing a Harrison Ford impression. That's awesome. Greenwood Audio Creation says, so having an impression of an archetype might help be the best way to start. I think it is. If you have at least a standard voice, like standard characters in your head, and then you could take one that closely resembles the character you're working on a voice for, and then alter it slightly, right? So for me, like the lumberjack with just a little bit of a nasally sound, you could alter the character slightly. So it's like something that's ingrained in your head that you can get to very quickly and remember a little bit more easily. Jim says, UT Lady Voles dreaded the mom look from Pat Summitt. She communicated very well with it. They also got 8 national titles with it. The dreaded mom look. Colette says, congrats on your new book project, Gregory. Absolutely. Greenwood says, Pat Summitt has the best mom looks. I'm going to have to go look that up. Eric Grimes says, my tendency is to over-edit, taking out things that can't even be heard. Again, striving for the elusive perfect. Yes, stop it. Stop it. No perfect. Stop it. Greenwood Audio Creation says to Jim about your MXL 990, make sure you are talking into the MXL logo. That backward speaking thing is a thing. It is. It's more prevalent than we think it is. Masonry Construction says, my simple mic strategy, always talk into the pointy end. Greenwood Audio Creation says, my voice was so muffled till I realized the logo is the front. Turned it around, much less muffle. Yeah. It's Jake25 says, any tips for fighting fatigue when recording these books? I can only seem to get only about 4 to 5 chapters in before I can start to feel tired. Am I still green? That is completely normal. I can only do maybe 2 chapters. I mean, every chapter is going to be a little bit different in different books. I mean, we're talking some books, it's going to have 10 chapters that are a page or 2 long, and then some chapters are going to be 40 pages long. So every chapter is a little bit different, but I would say 2 to 3 hours max No matter what you're doing, get up and take a break. Take an hour-long break, have lunch, drink a lot of water, hydrate, drink some tea, take a walk. It's good to take breaks, lots of breaks, because fatigue is a thing. I mean, we're just talking, but it's acting. There's a lot more to it than we thought that there was. There's a lot more, it's a lot more physical and demanding than you would think it is because you're putting on a performance. So take breaks, take lots of breaks. Fatigue is a common and real thing. So take the breaks. Greenwood Audio Creation says it's Jake 25. It takes practice. Reading a lot, talking a lot is exhausting. You'll get there though. Caesar says to it's Jake, think of your voice as a muscle. The more you narrate, the stronger it gets, but be mindful of maintenance. Keep the mouth, nose, and throat clean. Brush, floss, irrigate often. Jake says, thanks to everybody for the advice. I appreciate it. Exploring consciousness with Kayla River. Wow, great username. What audio samples did you put on your ACX profile? Whatever books that you want to narrate. So if you're looking for, if you're open to everything, then have a sample of everything. But what's important about your samples is your title. You don't want to just call it my audiobook demo because that tells somebody searching for a demo nothing about what is in the sample. So if it's a romance book that you're doing a little snippet of for your sample, then like for example, American female narrating romance. That tells the searcher exactly what is in that sample. So then they'll listen to it and then hopefully hire you. And also you want to recycle your samples because as soon as you post one, they're posted chronologically. So as soon as you post one, it's at the top of the search. And then progressively throughout the day, the week, the month, your samples are going to travel down the search list. So you want to, at whatever interval you choose, every couple days, every week, every couple weeks, take them down and repost them up so you're staying towards the top of the search. And this is for mainly authors who don't use any filters, right? They're not searching for anything specific. So if they just go to the narrators for hire, yours will hopefully be up at the top and be hopefully exactly what they're looking for. And then they click on you and then listen and hopefully send you a job offer. Jim says, what is the name of the site you mentioned about Booth Junkie? It's here on YouTube. So after my session here, not now, after the session is over, go to your YouTube search bar and type in Booth Junkie. He is a YouTube channel that has a lot of information about microphones, interfaces, things like that, tech stuff for voiceover. So good and so helpful. Dwight says, voice audio lexicons are a great reference to have developed and also up on display while recording your books to use as a live audio reference. Hot Pink Bear says, to Jim, Booth Junkie. Mm-hmm. David Horn, haven't seen you in a long time. How are you, my friend? I'm doing well. Good to see you. D. Hort says, Angela, I'm in the middle of setting up everything, auditioning, website, business email, audiobook in the queue, starting coaching. I feel overwhelmed. Completely normal. It's a lot, especially in the beginning. Did you ever experience that? Yes, I think most people do. You take one thing at a time, especially with setting up everything with the website and the email and all the stuff. Break it down into chunks. Do the priority stuff first. Even if you have to break that stuff into chunks, do it in chunks, especially if you have an audiobook in queue. That's going to be more important, getting the audiobook done. But if you have like an agenda book, which I do have like a daily planner that's a good size that I can write things down in every day, like, Monday, record chapters 1 through 2 on this book, and then do this with the website, and then do this with the email, right? I mean, if you can break everything down into chunks and see it, and then it's so gratifying to cross through it when it's done on your book, right? Break it down into chunks. But you will get past it. Everybody experiences that. You're not alone in that. It is very common and it is very easy to feel that overwhelm. But break it down into chunks and then you'll slowly get it all done. Super, I'm not even sure how to pronounce that. Darn, just joining now. I've worked in translation and subtitling for a decade and interested in voiceover. Your video on Audition helped me a lot. Good. Is there any other software you prefer? There's quite a few DAWs out there, but I think the majority of us will either work with Adobe Audition, Audacity, and Reaper is what I hear most often. I only have used Audition and Audacity. I used Audacity for about 3 months. It has vastly changed for the better since then, and it's still free as far as I know. But Adobe Audition is what I've used for the last about 5.5 years now, and I absolutely love it. So it's really going to come down to what makes most sense for you, what's easier for you to understand and learn. Jim says, running off, doing lunch now. Enjoy your lunch. Just turned my MXL 990 around to see what difference it makes. Good. I hope that solves the problem. Brian says, you know about the over editing. I find listening to stuff put out on Audible and hearing other pops and cracks and mouth noises helps me to feel that I don't have to be perfect. And frankly, better than a lot of other audiobook stuff being put out there. Yes, it does help with confidence knowing that even in audiobooks, you'll hear retakes left in, you'll hear, mouth pops and breaths and all the things that we think are bad. It's completely normal. So it kind of helps to stop the overthink. For sure. You're welcome. Voiceover Van Deen says, just realized I'm sitting here chilling out in the garden, sipping a beer, and I forgot to say hi, all. So no tea, it's beer. So jelly. Glad to see you, Voiceover Van Deen. David says, glad to hear you're doing well. Been doing well, been super busy. Good. Being busy is a good thing. Oh, thank you for that. Guinea pig in French. Oh, I'm not good with French. Thank you. Thank you for breaking that down for me. Brian says, I like no slow mode on these comments. I know like slow mode. Yeah, I don't like the fact that I have to make this subscriber only for the comments. I don't like the slow mode, but I have to do these things to keep the bots and the hackers out. So I apologize for all of that, but I do it for a reason. I don't like it either, but it's for a reason. Caesar says, beat me to it, guinea pig. It's French. Of course you knew that, Caesar. Of course you knew that, Caesar. All right, y'all. I'm going to head out. I've got some things to do. But thank you again for joining me for another live Q&A session. If there's something that you guys want to talk about or break down or talk about as a group, then please leave it in the comments down below. Maybe it's perhaps something we'll talk about in a future live chat. But I will be here next Tuesday at 12 p.m. EST talking about a new topic, and I hope to see you guys all there. So until then, kick the word perfect out of your vocabulary and replace it with something else and keep practicing. I'll see you guys then. Bye. Thank you for listening to She Lancer Mom Entrepreneur with VoiceOver Angela. That's me. For more information about me, visit my website, voiceoverangela.com, or hop on over to my YouTube channel, VoiceOver Angela. Again, thanks for listening. Have a great day.